Safe Harbor. I'm happy to be with you here today. So we are going to get started on our mats right away here today, and I'll give us our focus in just a second. So all of you who are taking the class, if you are on the ground and on a mat, please feel free to follow everything that I do. And then if you are in a chair, I will try to teach that also. So just pay attention the best you can with it and try to make something of the stretches or the mindfulness that I am teaching. So let's get started. We're going to start on our mats on our backs. If you're in a chair, please feel free to sit down at the edge of the chair and just sit nice and tall. And if you're able to sit tall in the chair itself by sitting all the way back, that's perfectly fine too, just so you have that straight back going. So start by relaxing into whatever you're sitting in or laying down on. Start to just pay attention to your breath and not really controlling it or doing anything to it, but just bringing your mind to what's happening there. So trying to reroute any thoughts that may be coming into the mind by just rerouting them for the time being. So all you're really focusing on is inhale and exhale. So even if you want to give that a try as far as mindfulness goes, feel free to just think of those two words as you're paying attention to your breath. And as other thoughts come up, which they will, just feel free to just usher those thoughts away for the time being. And just know that they're there later, that you don't have to think about them now. So our theme for today's class is going to be in regards to mindfulness. So Brené Brown said, "I don't have to choose extraordinary moments to find happiness. It's right in front of me if I'm paying attention and practicing gratitude." So just knowing that we don't have to go outside for any sources of happiness, of calmness, of gratitude. That's really all inside of us at every time, or actually at every moment. And when we do practice gratitude and mindfulness and being conscious of the current moment instead of the past or the future, when we stay in that really precise spot in our minds, it'll allow for us to have a more mindful approach to life and to really just be a little bit happier as well, because you're not always searching for a way to get a release or to get any type of happiness out of it. It's all inside and you don't need to chase it. So from where you are on the mat or in your chair, feel free to take a few small movements here, just by wiggling the fingers and toes, maybe pointing and flexing your feet away from you and back toward you. Move your wrists in circles. Just make small movements as we're moving for the first time within the class. And from here, we're going to come into a full body stretch from wherever you're at. Go ahead and point your toes toward the wall in front of you. Reach your arms back high overhead. Straighten them here. Find the biggest stretch that you can create. And then do the exact opposite. Go ahead and bring your knees into your chest if you're on a mat. And go ahead and just give yourself a little bit of a hug here in a ball. And you can bring the back of your head back down to the mat here. And feel free to take some rocks from left to right on your lower back. Give yourself that little bit of a massage. Just work out any kinks that we may have built. And then come back into stillness here. You can either, again, spatially, if you have the room, you can bring your arms out to a T by your sides and kind of create that T shape. Otherwise, bring your arms like goalposts here, bending at the elbow and just laying them on the ground and allowing your shoulders to sink into the mat or sink into the chair wherever you are. And you can try to do a little bit of a twist here by using the arm of your chair if you are in the chair, by just simply twisting and looking back behind you to each side. So if you are on the mat though, go ahead and on your next exhale, drop your knees over to the right. Gaze may come out to the left side if that's okay with your neck. breathing here. Still paying attention to where that breath, that energy is being sent at the moment. Make sure you don't lose that focus for the time being. Then inhale, take those knees back into center. We're just going to switch our keys over to the right and drop the knees over to the left. So feel free to take that stretch on this side. And again, moving your head in different directions as well, as long as it feels good with the body. From here, inhale, come back into center with your knees. Drop the soles of the feet down to the mat. So knees are going to stay bent, and we're just going to bring our soles of our feet down. From here, pay attention to those knees, even maybe looking forward, just seeing that they are about hip width distance, that your knees aren't touching each other if your feet aren't. So finding that version of your pose here. So bring our arms by our sides here, coming into a bridge pose. So we're going to kind of create that bridge effect with our bodies. So go ahead and walk each shoulder underneath of you. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but what we're going to do simply, if you look at the screen, we'll be bringing one shoulder underneath of our body. So bringing our shoulder blades very close together behind us. So go ahead and wiggle the other arm under. So your chest should be puffed out a little bit in this case, and you'll feel that little bit of a lift in the torso. So go ahead and bring your arms down by your sides now that we have the shoulder blades and you're touching in the middle. And plant your hands by your sides. We're going to press into our feet and into our hands and just gaze completely straight. Please don't move your neck. And let's go ahead and inhale, take the hips up just a few inches from the ground. Nothing extreme. Holding it here. And then slowly on your next exhale, bring the hips back down to the ground. And one last time, we're going to do that same motion. Feel free to maybe do the exact same thing or find a deeper version of the stretch if you do feel like that is helpful at the moment. So take that next inhale as you rise up with the hips. Hold it here for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Slowly lower the hips back down to your mat. From here, we're going to go ahead and cross the left ankle over the right knee, creating this number 4 pattern with our legs. And just simply using that left hand to your advantage, just put a gentle weight into the hand. And just simply feeling that stretch in every spot here. So using our mindfulness and really just catering to that throughout class today would be great. So just keeping that mindful aspect here, that there's nothing we need to think about other than the present moment. And taking a quick glance up toward your legs, lifting your head off of the ground, go ahead and bring the left hand through that opening here that we created with our legs. And go ahead and interlace fingers behind the back of the right thigh. Take an inhale here as your head is lifted. Exhale, let that head come back to the ground and try to deepen the stretch by another inch or two. And bringing that right knee as close to that right shoulder as is possible. And from here, let's go ahead and release that grip on the thigh. Slowly bring that foot down, don't let it slingshot, and go ahead and uncross the left ankle. Let's go ahead and bring our feet mat width distance, or if you're in a chair, you can kind of play with this version of it as well. Let's just bring our knees into touch in the center of our mat. So we're just simply bringing our knees together with our feet wide. So let's go ahead and bring our knees over toward the left. So kind of windshield wipering our legs, but doing it with a little bit more intention. So nice and slowly holding it here on this side. Inhale, bring the knees back up to center. Exhale, drop the knees over to the right. Inhale, knees come back into center. Same thing, drop them to the left. One breath here. Then inhale, bring those knees back into center. Same thing to the right. Drop the knees over. Breathe here for one breath. Inhale, bring those knees back in. Heel toe your feet back in so they are hip width distance. And go ahead and hug the knees back into the chest once more. And from here, we're going to bring our hands behind our thighs or behind our knees and just grasp there. We're going to do a little roll to get up to seated, but if you are on the mat, give it a shot for this one. It's a pretty fun way to get up and really not have to reposition yourself manually. So what you can do is cross your ankles in either direction that you feel most comfortable with dominantly. And this time, as we roll up to seated, as we do in most of my classes, we're going to simply roll all the way through onto all fours. So by having our ankles crossed, it allows us to be a little bit more mobile with that. So go ahead and we're going to swing ourselves forward, go over our feet, basically through crisscross applesauce with our legs, and go ahead and come back onto all fours. So wrists are underneath of our shoulders here, making that L shape with our fingers. The pointer finger should be even to the left or right sides of your mat. And then looking back at our knees, so looking to make sure that we're at hip width distance. So right now I'm not either arching my spine or rounding my spine. So coming into that first, the tabletop position, which is kind of a pose in and of itself. So picturing almost like your back is a table and nothing can roll off of it. From here, we're going to come into some stretching of actually moving the spine, but just pay attention a little bit more, be more mindful of where you're at in the stretch and really how much you're moving and keeping with your breath. So right now is a really good time to start that yoga type of breathing, which is very similar to like sounds of the ocean or Darth Vader, they say sometimes, but in yoga it's called Ujjayi breath. And what you would do is breathe in through the nose and out through the nose here. And once you do go in through the nose and out the nose, you want to constrict your throat the entire time. So you're making that really breathy, ocean-like sound, that roar almost. So keeping your breath moving there, that will help to keep your focus. From right here, we're just going to go ahead and sit ourselves back onto our heels though to start. Bring the big toes to touch each other if they're not there already. And then walk the hands out an extra step, bring the forehead down to the ground. If you're in a chair, you can bow forward here over the legs and simply rest your forehead onto your arms or whatever is most convenient. But coming into child's pose here for a moment, just giving our wrists a little bit of a break from what we were just doing. And then slow and controlled, let's bring our chin to our chest first. Slowly round all the way from the hips up through the shoulders as you come up. So you can kind of see on the screen what I'm doing there. So slowly lifting up here, bringing the chin up last. Walk your hands back underneath of you if they did have to move forward for that stretch. Bring the big toes back out again and just let the toenail side of your toes rest on the ground. Take an inhale here. On your next exhale, go ahead and drop your tailbone down. Chin comes to our chest. We're rounding out the spine, pressing through the arms. Inhale, go ahead and drop the belly. Bring the tailbone up, gaze comes up. We're doing 2 more of those with our own breath. So take that exhale, round out the spine, press through the hands and tuck the tailbone. Inhale, drop the belly, arch the spine, look forward. One last one. Go with your own breath, exhaling into your cats and inhaling into your cow. And then go ahead and find that neutral back again once you've finished that sequence. And we're just going to go ahead and play around with some balance here. So bring your gaze right in between your hands, but about 6 feet in front of them or 6 inches rather, in front of them here. So we're going to go ahead and step our left foot back. So you can see that I'm balancing here almost like a runner's lunge and getting myself kind of geared up and stretching out my calf here a bit. So the more that you lean back on it, you'll feel that stretch. The more that you ease forward, the less intense it will be. So playing around with that, maybe finding a little bounce so you can stretch into that a bit and stretch out every part of the back of the leg. And then slowly bring that knee back underneath of you. Same thing, opposite side. Go ahead and bring the right foot back and just balance here for a moment. Maybe do some little rocks back and forth. And then go ahead and bring that knee underneath of you once again.
This time, getting a little bit more deeply into the chest and the shoulders to stretch that out before we do move a little bit more. We're gonna bring our knees back one step, and then bring our hands forward one step, and just simply sink the tailbones back, and then bring them over top of the heels. But again, this time we're in puppy pose where you don't have to sit back onto the heels entirely. You want that to hover. So if you look at the screen, you can see there's some space underneath of my armpits. That would be some useful space to play around with and really sink our chest down toward the ground as much as is comfortable. So from here, you can bring your forehead down if you'd like to. You can stay exactly as you are with the hands, or if you want more of a shoulder stretch, you can come onto fingertips and kind of amp it up a little more. So play around with that, see what works best for you. And then I'm going to challenge everyone who's on a mat here. Look forward, bring your forehead off of the ground, and then try to just sink your chest down a little bit more and rest your chin there just for a second. Breathing in here, exhaling out. Then go ahead and come back up onto all fours. Bring the hands back underneath of the shoulders, knees back underneath of wrists. Now coming into a more relaxing version of that child's pose that we just did here, coming into a wide kneed version, just so we can sink into the hips where we hold a lot of tension. So first bring the big toes to touch each other behind you. Walk one knee out to the edge of your mat and then the other, and sit yourself back onto your heels the best you can. Bring your forehead either down to the mat, or feel free to go ahead and bring your forearms stacked underneath your forehead and resting there. So you have a few options. Wherever you're at in the stretch though, just closing the eyes. If the focus that we were on is kind of wandered away on us, feel free to bring yourself back to that intention and back to that moment. So being in our child's pose here. Using this time of silence here to just simply come back into your own body here if your thoughts have wandered. Focusing on that breath. And as we do that here, just finding ourselves sinking more and more into our spot. So from where we are, let's go ahead and slowly bring ourselves back onto all fours. Go ahead and bring yourself up. Knees come back underneath of hips, wrists back underneath of shoulders here. We're going to tuck the toes under, and we're going to come into our downward facing dog here. So challenging ourselves a little bit more. If you are in a chair, you can feel free to stand up and bring your hands onto the seat of the chair to mimic this particular position. So wherever we're at here in our tabletop, tuck the toes under. Go ahead and lift the knees up. You can walk the hands forward a step if they feel too close. We're going to come into that V shape with our bodies. Pressing our heels down to the ground as much as we can and keeping our gaze back in between our ankles. We're going to press through those hands that we're kind of gearing our torso back, like pressing your heart toward your feet. And then kind of paying attention to our arms as well. So right at our armpit here, you can kind of roll the shoulders in. So you want your armpits to kind of be geared toward our ears. That's the most sense I can make of that for you. So just kind of rotating our arms inward, that those armpits are kind of facing our ears. Then let's go ahead and look to our hands here. We're going to walk our feet forward if you're on your mat. If you're in a chair too, you can also do this. Take an inhale once you get to the front of your mat. Halfway lift your back up here. Use your fingertips to kind of run up your shins as a guide. So we're coming into that totally flat back and keeping our head from really dropping down. We're going to just extend our gaze forward and elongate the neck as we do so. Next, exhale. Just go ahead and drop the head heavy, arms hang heavy here if you're standing. Or if you're out of the chair, you can feel free to rest the arms there once again, or just use that as a little bit of a helper here. keeping a little bend in the knees here, not taking too much intensity out of the pose. Let's go ahead and slowly roll ourselves all the way up. So go ahead, bring yourself all the way up back to standing. Chin's the last thing to rise. From here, we're going to sweep our arms high over top of our head. So bring your arms high over top here. Bring the palms to touch. I know I'm off frame here. I apologize. So let's go ahead and exhale. Bring our arms all the way back down to our sides as we fold forward over those legs once again. Inhale, halfway lift. Find that flat back. Exhale, fold forward. Bend at the knees here. Give yourself that space and plant the hands in front of you here. Fingertips are even with the sides of our mat. Step back. Find your high plank. We're just going to shift ourselves forward. So use your legs and your ankles to kind of do so. So you can see my heels come forward and I shift forward. So I'm more onto my tippy toes. I'm going to bend into my elbows and go all the way down to the ground. You can flip to the tops of your feet here, kind of pressing your toenail side of your toes into the ground. And you can see my elbows here kind of sprawling out. What we want to do is the exact opposite of that. So go ahead and zip those elbows in toward your rib cage. And you can either hover your hands if you don't want to put pressure into them here, so you can kind of give them a little space, or come onto fingertips and just gently press. Or if you feel like you want more assistance, you can keep your palms flat and just bring your elbows in toward your spine. Taking an inhale with very little to no pressure in the hands here, so just really lifting as far as our breath allows. As you take that inhale, you'll feel the chest inflate, and it does this naturally for us. So take a big deep inhale. Let yourself rise up just those couple of inches from the mat with your chin. Exhale. Come back down to the mat here. Turn either cheek. Then from here, let's go ahead and bring our knees bent and then our heels in toward our body. From here, I'd like you to go ahead and just bring your forearms to the ground if you're on your mat. Otherwise, sitting back into your chair. And let's simply bring our hands right by our ears if we were looking forward. With our knees bent, we're going to go ahead and windshield wipe our legs back and forth again, because any tension we may have built will release it here. So go ahead and drop your feet over to the left, to the right. Go ahead through a few of those. It just feels nice on the lower back. And bringing ourselves back into center here. Go ahead and plant the hands back underneath of the shoulders. Extend the legs long on the mat once again. Use your knees here. We don't really have to do anything too crazy or advanced as far as class goes. So we'll keep it on the more meditative side here. So keep the knees down. Press into the hands. Just come into that upper part of a push-up with your knees down. Then go ahead and just sink your hips back once again. Find that child's pose. Bring your forehead down to the mat the best you can, or rest it on forearms. Breathing here, taking 3 good deep breaths in through the nose and out through the nose, keeping our focus. Last breath. On your next inhale, bring your chin to your chest, slowly round yourself all the way back up to all the way back up to all fours. Tuck the toes under as you do so. Come into that downward facing dog. Then we're going to walk our feet toward our hands again, trying to keep our fingertips in contact the whole time. Take an inhale, lift yourself halfway, find that flat back. Exhale, fold forward, drop the head heavy and arms heavy. Inhale, rise all the way up. Go ahead and kind of bring your arms out and up over your head. Get that rotation in the shoulders here. Exhale, bring the arms down to your sides. Find mountain pose here. So you can see right now I'm simply standing, which is kind of neat. So this is called mountain pose in yoga. Most of us, we do this every day, many a time. So bringing your arms down, palms face forward to help bring any energy into the body to be able to create a more mindful life. So really bringing your arms down, my shoulders are on my back, so they're not shrugging up toward my ears. Just really trying not to hold any tension while standing here. Go ahead and look down at your feet to see if they're hip width distance as mine are. And just make sure that they're even with the edges of your mat, so you're not bringing your toes in too far, or bringing your heels in too far, whichever you may have going on there, because everyone stands a little bit differently. So looking down at our feet, making sure they're parallel and under our hips. Let our arms come out, keep your shoulders on your back, and bring your gaze just forward as you find a focus point in front of you. I invite you all here to just close your eyes for a moment while you're in this pose, because we don't do that very often. We don't just close our eyes while we're standing. So I'd like us to really connect with the body here and bring our mind into that space. So close the eyes here. You'll feel slight sways of your body. Sometimes you feel like you're floating a little bit. So just simply breathing into it, keeping the eyes closed, and paying attention to those slight sways that we may not notice throughout the day as we're busy. So from here, we're going to come into a little bit of standing balance. So feel free to blink your eyes open. I'm just going to walk forward to check on my timing here on my video. Okay, excellent. So from here, what we're going to do is use our balancing effects that we almost did find in just this standing pose, this very simple pose. We're going to play around with it a bit. So if you are in a chair, feel free to bring a chair over here to your side, or just simply stand up out of it. We will be using the chair as a support, so it won't be anything extreme. And if you are standing, feel free to go with me. Use my words as suggestions for the most part. And again, if you feel that this resonates with you in any way, or you're able to do it, feel free to give it a shot. So we're going to use our right foot as our standing foot here first. So my imaginary chair is off to my side here. So if you do end up using the chair, you can always watch me this way a little bit. I'll kind of cater to both things. So if you are standing, or if you're standing in either direction with a chair or not, regardless, let's go ahead and bring our right foot all the way into our right foot here, without really leaning over too far to bring ourselves toppling. So just really pressing a little bit in there. Go ahead and test the water. Go ahead and just bring your left knee bent and your heel upward, and just starting to unweight some of that weight. Now we're going to come into what's called tree pose. So it's a very stereotypical pose if you've ever seen anything yoga related before. So what we're going to do is just turn our hip out on the left. So what we're going to do is open up that thigh to the left side without really bowing into that hip. We want to be able to stand up straight still. So from here, you can kind of keep this little kickstand and bring the foot to the inner shin. And again, we don't want to press hard into that foot. You can then also bring your foot up into your inner thigh, pressing into it, and again, using your wall or your chair, whatever it is, you can feel free to keep that right hand on it. From here, we're going to bring ourselves into heart center with the hands, so keeping that solid foundation. Breathing here, using that focus point in front of you that's not moving. And then from where we're at, we're going to just slowly unpress that foot into our thigh or our shin. So without slingshotting it, maybe using that left hand, slowly bring it off, and we're going to keep that knee up level with the ground. So from here, bring your hands to your hips for a moment, keep that balance. Bring your left hand to your inner knee. Go ahead and open that hip up to the side just a small bit. Go ahead and bring that knee back in. Drop the foot down. Go ahead and wiggle out that right ankle. I'm going to grab a sip of water. I apologize. And from where we're at here, doing that same thing opposite side. So feel free to have a wall by your side too again. It doesn't matter what side the wall or chair is on. And let's go ahead and start to unweight our left foot. So our right foot rather. So putting our pressure into the left. And going ahead and finding that bend in the knee, balancing on just the toes. And then let's go ahead and bring that foot either to the inner shin or inner thigh, keeping that balancing point, which this side is much worse for me today for whatever reason. Go ahead and find that balancing point in front of you. Keep your focus. on that one spot. And then using our hands, slowly go ahead and bring that foot off of the leg. Bring your knee up so it's even with the ground. Hands come to our hips for a moment. Open that knee up to the side, bring the right hand over to that knee. Hold it for a breath. Then bring that knee back into center. Drop it down. Great job. Wiggle out that left ankle. From here, coming back onto our chair or onto our mat, so feel free to have a seat as we do so. We're simply going to bring our hips down to the ground by bending the knees, nothing fancy, and bring our way back down to our mat. And from here, let's go ahead and close the eyes for a moment. Recenter ourselves here. So from where we're at here, just enjoying that silence for a few moments. Not letting anything awkward or anything happen really with the mind, just being at peace with where you are at the moment. And again, focusing on this moment. So simply resting the arms either by our sides. I have mine up like a goalpost here, like we did for one of those first poses. You can keep the knees bent for a while if you'd like, and just let the knees hit each other. Kind of buckle in. Now making some last minute moves with our body here, letting any fidgetiness out. We're gonna kind of play around with really getting more fidgety, if that makes sense, before we relax completely. So once we're in this quiet space again and you're thinking of just those inhales and exhales and what we're doing at this moment, we'll just go ahead and walk our feet out. So we're going to play around with this a little bit with our hips. So we're going to walk our feet forward in front of us. So take actual steps, extend the legs long, bend the knees again, lock the feet back up so the ankles are right underneath of the knees. Walk the feet out one more time. And then go ahead and bring them back up again. And from here, doing some last minute stretches just before we come still. Bring the knees back into the chest. We're gonna extend our legs toward the sky. So there can be a bend in them as mine are right now that I feel is most attainable by everyone. You can straighten the legs if you wish, but you're still gonna get the same benefit without that extra tension or stress on the legs. So feel free to keep a little bend there. Or if you want to go to a wall, you can also extend your feet up there if you have space today. So really getting this benefit of an inversion here. So we're kind of going similar to how we would be upside down in a handstand or a headstand or any of those more advanced poses. But we're getting that benefit without any strain on our upper body as if we would be doing those things. Feel free to bring your hands to the back of thighs if that's comfortable for you right now, using them as a helper. And take 3 more breaths where we are. Count them out in your mind. One more breath, at least for my count. Then we're going to slowly bring the feet back down to the ground and go ahead and walk the feet out one last time. This time to let us extend our legs. So you can let your feet, you can see them in the video a bit here, that you don't have to have your toes pointing up toward the sky unless that's your most comfortable spot. You can kind of let your feet open up toward the sides of your mat here. And when just truly coming into that relaxation pose. So as we're here, I'm going to kind of cut our Savasana here a bit short just because I want you all to have a little bit of a discussion today. It's a little bit of extra work that we're doing.
And from where we are, simply closing the eyes, do a quick scan mentally of the body all the way from the top of the head down to your feet and back up again. Just paying attention to any tension that we can release. And just know that it doesn't serve us at the moment. Close the eyes, keep them shut. Not to the point that the eyelids are heavy, but simply allowing them to close. And start to pay attention to the breath as it is not under our control anymore. So you don't have to do that constriction in the throat. Taking about 5 breaths here before I release you with some discussion to have in the room. From wherever you're at here, bring some movement back into the body. So wiggle the fingers, wiggle the toes, point and flex our feet, round your wrists in circles. Finding that full body stretch that we took at the beginning of class once more. Go ahead and point your toes in front of you. Extend the arms back high overhead. Come into the biggest full body stretch you can, almost like you're ripping apart at your torso into 2. And bringing your knees into your chest here. Wrap yourself into that little ball once again, using your arms to hug into the shins. Thank yourself for doing something good for you today, something good for everyone around you. And bringing your right arm out as a pillow, roll onto your right side, come into the fetal position, position of new beginnings, of fresh starts. And then go ahead and bring the knees back into center here. And we're just gonna go ahead and sit ourselves up into a comfortable seated position. So whatever that may look like for you. So bring yourselves into our seat here, letting your arms rest on legs if that's comfortable. Or you can have your hands kind of at your feet a little bit and clasping the toes, whichever feels most natural. Keeping the gaze lower, our eyes closed here. We're just gonna roll the neck a bit here in each direction. So taking 2 rounds on each side, let's bring our left ear to our left shoulder. Go ahead and bring the head back. Bring the right ear to right shoulder, drop the head forward, and then go one more time in that direction. Then do the exact opposite in the opposite direction here. Switching gears. Excellent. From here, release your hands from wherever they are, stretching out the neck a tiny bit more. Bring that right hand on top of your head here, almost over toward your left ear. Just find a gentle weighted stretch, bringing that right ear toward your right shoulder. And then release sides here, let the head come back up to neutral. Left hand comes over our head, over toward our right ear. Give it a little bit of weight here as we bring our left ear to left shoulder. Then bring our head back up, arm comes into our lap. Once again, revisiting that quote here, and I'll give you your little bit of an assignment for the next few minutes left of your class. So our quote once again for today was, I don't have to choose extraordinary moments to find happiness. It's right in front of me if I'm paying attention and practicing gratitude. So just knowing that you don't have to chase those extraordinary moments to be happy. I want you all to try to discuss something that you are grateful for in your day-to-day lives. Something that you are happy about that brings a smile, a little bit of joy to you throughout a day. And just share something within reason with your group or even just the person next to you. So from where we are, in the seated position, let's bring our arms high overhead here. Join your palms to touch. Thank yourselves for coming out here.
with the word that means the light in me, sees and honors the light in you, which is namaste. So bring those hands down to our heart. Let your knuckles of your thumbs kind of press into your middle chest, into your sternum. Thank you all for coming out here today and practicing with me. You have a wonderful day. Namaste. Thank you, everyone. If you have any questions or concerns about class, feel free to let Sarah know, and we will gladly discuss at a different time. So I'll leave you here for the next 5 minutes just to share with one another. But otherwise, thank you all again, and you have a nice day. Bye, guys.